Yes, I represent several members of the community.
Community, okay, that's fine. We have Michael Cavanaugh from DCP. I just have an attendance sheet. So I can't ask anybody to sign in. Got to go do this myself.
Can I just started live streaming? I know
Yes.
you already did introductions. I didn't press
Sure.
record yet.
Okay. Oh, sorry. Time is. Can we start?
I'll
Okay.
press record. It's 7:32. I mean, you only have 3 members of the committee currently, I think, right?
Yeah, John Johnson is still. He was going to be. I know. I spoke to him this afternoon. He's supposed to be here. We do have a quorum, however, because there are 2 of us out of the 3.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to start with the date, the time again, just for the
Yeah.
record, if you don't mind.
Good evening. My name is Kenneth Gelnick. The time is now 7:33. This is the meeting of a public hearing on the Land Use Committee on the application for 2560 Boston Road. And when I speak too quickly, please everybody ask me to slow down. Who did I have? Stephanie Sue.
Yes.
Yeah, just a clarification, Ken, we didn't have a public hearing yet because the application hasn't been certified. So this is like a pre-certification meeting. And you do have, I know they're here, Stephanie and Grace, and they both registered to speak in the gallery.
Okay.
So go ahead, continue.
Grace, I'm just like you. Grace, your last name is Grace.
Lavaglio.
The bag. I'm sorry.
Lovaglio.
Lavaglio.
Sí.
Okay.
Sí, señor.
And who is 917 something 77? I'll get that person later. Good evening. So
Yeah, if they don't want to identify themselves, you can't really do much.
There's somebody 917 something something something.
Yeah, if they don't end up identifying themselves, we'll put it in the minutes as unidentified caller. And
yep. Okay.
I'm making you a co-host and Oral a co-host.
Yep. Oh, good. Okay. Thank you. William Foster, you are from NIDC, correct? NIDC.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. That's again, my name is Kenneth Gelnick. I'm the chair of the Land Use Committee. My co-chair is Oral Selkridge, who is here. There is one more member of the committee who I spoke to this afternoon, but has John Johnson. He is supposed to be here, and I guess he'll show. He's been delayed. Sometimes that happens with COVID right now. What I would like to do is I'd like to start with the applicant and have who's going to be speaking first on behalf of the applicant.
I will, John Valadares.
Okay, Mr. Valadares, good evening. But you have the floor.
Yes, are we able to share a presentation?
Yeah, you should be able to share, no problems. Ken, I'm going to step away because I've been working all day and I need a break. So, but if you need me, call myself. Don't text me, just call me.
No. Okay, thanks. Thanks, Jeremy.
Okay, so
we see it.
You see it? Perfect.
Hey guys, sorry I'm a little late.
Oh, that's fine.
Hey Ken,
okay.
Just a quick thing before we start. I'm sorry. Hey guys from Slate. I think John, you're on.
Yeah. Hey John.
Hey, how are you, bud? Ken, is Oral on? I'm sorry, I can't see everything.
Oral is on. Oral is on also.
All right, great.
We have the full 3 members of our committee.
We got quorum then. That's awesome.
Yeah.
100%.
100%. We're probably the only committee that can say that. We have 100% attendance at our meeting.
Hey, it's a good thing. What can we do? Yeah. Hey, just a quick thing as a matter of record.
Sure, John.
Slate is working with NIDC, which is a local community board. They're in our community board, and Slate is working with them, and I sit on the board of NICD. So, So what I'm going to have to do is and recuse myself from any voting on this particular matter, but definitely here to talk about, Slate and have experience working with Slate and of course NIDC. So just wanted to come out and just say that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are you guys ready for me?
Yep, go ahead, John.
Okay, so thank you everyone for giving us the opportunity to present to you guys this evening. My name is John Valadares. I work for Slate Property Group. We're here to discuss a proposed project at 2560 Boston Road. For those of you who don't know Slate, Slate is a mid-size real estate developer based in New York City. We develop all across the spectrum from affordable to market rate housing. In the Bronx, our most recent project was a low-income housing tax credit affordable housing project in the Tremont section of the Bronx on Tremont Avenue, just off of Daly Avenue. Just off of Southern Boulevard on Tremont and Daly. It was a 119 unit affordable housing project recently completed this summer. And we're in the middle of leasing up the property now. The building was a underutilized one-story retail. I think it's a furniture store, if I remember correctly. We removed the furniture store, rebuilt these 119 affordable units, new amenities, fitness room, and brought back the retail on the ground floor. It's still on the market to lease, but that's one of our more recent Bronx developments. We're here to talk to you guys about 2560 Boston Road, which many of you probably know is the Fine and Fair site on Boston Road between Barnes and Matthews Avenue. You can go. Again, I'm sure I'm not showing you guys anything that you're not familiar with. This is the current existing site conditions there. It's basically the Fine and Fair supermarket, and there are two small buildings that form the tip of the triangle that touches Boston Road. So it's really three parcels combined that we own or control currently. Current site conditions today are not great. It's sea of asphalt, a lot of parking on the backside. It's a blank wall, not really a kind of friendly pedestrian experience by any means. But again, this is probably something that you as community board members are very familiar with already. Again, this is more for information, but one of the things that we love about the site is its great access to public transportation. We're just a few blocks away from the 2-5 train, not far from the 5 train at the Pelham station, and very close to a host of bus stops. This is really what we're proposing to put here to replace the current condition with. We're proposing approximately 330 units of 100% affordable housing. We're proposing to finance and develop this with HDC and HPD debt and programming. A little later on, I'll get into what that means programmatically and what that means for income levels and AMIs. One thing that we wanted to note is there is a 50% in all of these projects for local community board residents. As John had mentioned before, we have entered into an agreement with NIDC to serve as a partner on this project to help us achieve the best we can on hitting that 50% preference for the local community board. I'm gonna run through the rest of a little bit of the project, but then I want to stop for a moment and give Will Foster from NIDC a moment just to kind of introduce himself and talk a little bit about that game plan. But continuing here, one of what we think is one of the key parts to this development is the return of the existing Fine Fair supermarket. We have Rudy Fuertes with us also here tonight. Rudy is the current operator of the existing Fine and Fair supermarket. We have an agreement with Rudy to leave the site during construction Rudy has identified a space very short distance on Boston Road, about 2 blocks away, where Rudy will temporarily relocate during construction, and then allow us to build our building, put back the supermarket, and then Rudy will relocate. So what this will mean will be no downtime in the supermarket operations, no loss of jobs, no loss of the neighborhood supermarket, which was really important to us, and we've worked really hard to kind of achieve over the last couple of years working with Rudy. Rudy will be available for questions if anyone on the committee has any. In addition to the supermarket, we have about 6,000 to 7,000 square feet of community facility space. We have not identified a tenant for that space. We did that intentionally. We want to hear from the community. We want to hear from the community board. We want to hear from the local elected officials if they have an idea for a tenant, but this could be anything from medical space. It could be nonprofit office space, could be childcare space. There's really is a lot of flexibility to what that space can be. In addition to the supermarket, we have about 5,000 square feet of additional, what we describe as neighborhood retail. It could be restaurant, coffee shop, shoe repair, dry cleaner, laundromat, whatever that is. Again, this is something we have not identified a user for. We're open to feedback. We've had some conversations with the local merchants association to let them know that this space is available. So the idea being, if there's a local neighborhood business that's ready to expand, ready to move, ready to do something else, start a new business, we would definitely give them an opportunity to do so here. In addition to the retail and the residential, we have 117 parking spaces. These are generated through a combination of on-grade spots on the first floor and some below grade. And then, as with all of our buildings today, Slate takes sustainability very seriously. So the building will be designed to meet Enterprise Green Community standards. We'll have solar panels or a green roof. Most likely it'll be a combination of solar panels on some of the roof and green roof on other portions of the roof. With that, I want to hand it over to NIDC so they could talk a little bit about themselves. But in short, our arrangement with NIDC is for them to help us do the best we can at achieving the preference for the local community board. So for those of you who don't know, on any of these affordable housing projects financed by HPD, there's a 50% preference for the local community board. What that means is if those community residents apply for housing, they have a preference over folks outside of the district. And the way a community can best hit that or take advantage of that, I should say, is to get people out to apply for the lottery. Tons of people qualify for affordable housing and don't know they qualify for affordable housing. And it's about, or they don't know how. Those are really I'd say the two biggest obstacles. So we like to partner with local nonprofits that we think can help get the word out that there is this lottery, that they often qualify for it. And if they need the technical assistance in order to apply, helping get a computer to get on, to helping assemble their paperwork, because there is a lot of paperwork that you do need to assemble and submit for these. We want to help provide those resources to the local community so that they have a head start as opposed to folks coming from the outside of the community. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Will Foster from NIDC.
Hi, John, and thank you, John, and good evening to the committee. Thank you for your kind words. I think most of you know NIDC, at least peripherally. NIDC is a youth and community development organization. We've been serving the Bronx for over 40 years. We're actually celebrating our 40th year this year. Our mission is to help prepare youth for a great future and to help strengthen and build thriving communities. Some of our strengths as an organization is that we're very responsive to the community's needs, and we many of, as John Johnson had mentioned, he is on our board, and John, thank you for that transparency. We know the institutions and the issues that are confronting the communities that we serve. We have a strong social media presence. Financially, we're very, very sound now, which I just parenthetically gives me great joy to be able to say. For those of you who don't know, you can see the full range of our work at our website and on social media, but our website is www.nidcny.org. Very briefly, I told John before I'd try and keep this to under 30 minutes. We provide youth services. We have after-school programs at 7 sites across the Northeast Bronx. We are working with approximately 600 children every day, providing them with after-school services, helping them with their academic attainment, with their social emotional learning, and civic engagement, really giving back to the community. And a big part of what we do is we help support the parents, because I think we all know that being a parent today is very difficult. On the community development side, we work with supporting landlords and tenants. We do landlord-tenant mediation, eviction prevention. We provide workshops for landlords and tenants. We provide technical assistance to smaller community groups. And we are now working on assisting people who are in the shelter system to becoming housed and providing them with ongoing support services. We have been doing vaccine education, helping people get vaccines, voter registration, and participatory budgeting, financial literacy, mental health awareness, and I'm sure I've forgotten a couple of things, but when it comes to how we would be able to bring all of these resources to bear, I think some of it's pretty straightforward. Because we're working with 600 kids and families every day, we have the ability to connect with them and their families. We're working in the schools so that we'll be able to connect with the teachers, because I think that the range of affordability, it's probably I'm certainly not speaking to that, but I think that the range of affordability for this type of housing is like that. We also work, like I said, with many of the local smaller groups, including Morris Park Community Association, the Van Nest. I'm sorry, I need to catch my breath. Van Nest, the Bronx Park East, the Pelham Parkway South, and we work with Gene DeFrancis with the Allerton Merchants, and so we would be working with all of these groups and working in all of these outreach capacities to let people know about the services and about this program, and provide them with the assistance so that they can apply and do whatever we can to make sure they have whatever documentation and be able to reach that 50% number, so that the people of the community can be able to benefit. And I'm done.
Thank you, Will. You did a great job keeping it under the 30-minute cap.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Okay. Who's
the
next?
couple,
Yeah.
So with the next couple of slides, we'll go through pretty quickly for you guys. It really is. This is more just background, or if anyone had in particular questions about the layout. But this is the first floor depicted that shows the supermarket, the entrance to the community facility space, which it shows a smaller amount, but that's because the rest of it goes up to a mezzanine level, and the ground floor neighborhood retail. The next slide, this is really to show the cellar level, the parking, and really the balance of the space besides parking is really allocated to building mechanical and bike storage, stuff like that that's needed to operate the buildings. The next slide, I'm going to hand it over to Jackie from Ackerman. so she can go over the proposed land use actions. We know you guys don't have the certified application yet, so this might be helpful just as a kind of preamble to that.
Thanks, John. So Boston Road Associates is asking for 2 land use actions that will be under review by the board. We're hoping that the application certifies on October 24th with city planning, and that will officially start the community board review. And the first action is a zoning map amendment or rezoning from the C81 and R6 zoning districts. So right now, there is a C81 mapped to a depth of 100 feet along Boston Road. And then the remainder of the site, about 200 feet, is R6. So on the portion along Boston Road, no residential use is permitted right now. With the proposed rezoning, we can have a mixed-use development like you see here today, and it allows an increase in density on the site. It also allows for the overall program of 100% affordable housing with community facility space, as well as the ground floor supermarket and retail space that John was just mentioning. And then the other action is a zoning text amendment, which will require that a percentage of the floor area is permanently affordable pursuant to the mandatory inclusionary housing program. But as John mentioned, this site will be 100% affordable, so all the units will be restricted by regulatory agreement. This is just a permanent restriction on the property that a certain amount will always be affordable. This just shows you the zoning that exists today. On the left, I was mentioning our site between Barnes and Matthews on Boston Road. You can see the C81 is mapped to a depth of 100 feet, and then the remainder is zoned R6. R6 allows for height factor developments that you see where there's no height restriction. You can build up to 18 to 20 stories in an R6 zoning district. It's really a basis based on the lot area. But this site is split between the C81 and the R6. And then with that, I will turn it back over to John to kind of speak about the housing program and the affordability for the project.
Thanks, Jackie. So, go back one more. Yeah. So we're proposing from a housing perspective to use HPD's mix and match program, which is really the most flexible program HPD allows for the selection of income levels to target for the development. So between 40 and 60% of the building are AMIs, up to 80% of the New York City AMI. And the balance of the building is set aside for units ranging from 80 to
John?
100.
Is that John? Is that John?
Yeah.
You're having, I don't know if you want, if there's any way to do it, you're having a feedback and there's a bad echo. I'm having a little bit of a problem hearing you. I don't know if everybody else is, but I don't think
I'll try again.
You can do about it.
Yeah, Ken.
Is that better now?
Yeah, that's better. Yeah, if everybody can go on mute and just let John talk, that way you don't have the reverb.
Got it. So I'll say what I just repeated very quickly, and I'll say it again if anyone wants. But HPD, we're proposing to use HPD's mix and match program, which provides the most flexibility and the widest range of income bands for this project. In general, the project the term sheets under that program allow for 40 to 60% of the units to be set at income levels up to 80%, and the balance, so the remaining 40 to 60%, up to 120% of AMI. I know that might be a lot for some folks who aren't familiar with AMI levels. Bear with me, I'll get into that right now. The other point to note is, as Jackie mentioned, this will be mapped as inclusionary, mandatory inclusionary. So a portion of the property, even though we're proposing the entire property to be committed to affordability, a portion of it will be set aside permanently as affordable. And it'll depend on the council member whether it's 25 at 60% of AMI or 30% at 80. The next slide. So this slide is really is really for information purposes. For those that don't live and breathe on affordable housing in New York, the way the programs work, basically they're based off of what the average median income is for the New York City area, which is depicted here in the red. So a family of 4 in New York, the average median income is $133,400, and the building is set up so that it is developing affordable units targeted at certain income bands, ranging from, as I mentioned, from 30 up to 120% in this particular program. So what this table is just showing is a 30% AMI family of 1, which is the top left corner here, would be a family of 1 making $28,000. And on the right-hand side, the most extreme, a family of 4 at 120% of AMI would be making $160,000 a year. The next slide. So what that equates to in rent, these AMI bands and the affordability programs, the way they work is they're basically set aside so that these individuals, these families, are not paying more than 30% of their income. So that individual who I just went over, who was making the 30% of AMI in a studio apartment, their maximum rent that they would pay for that unit would be $700 a month. And you could follow this schedule to see where a family would fall under each individual income band and what the subsequent rent would then. The idea being that if a family is paying more than 30% of their income towards rent, they're rent burdened. Rent is becoming, is hard for them to pay and is unaffordable at that level. And the goal here is for us to develop housing that is affordable to members of this community. So with that being said, I think a lot of times what we've encountered is a lot of times individuals have a hard time tying those complicated income bands to kind of real jobs in the neighborhood or who their neighbors are or what they do for a living. So we put this slide together, trying to help with that. So the idea being that same person that we talked about in the first slide or in the last 2 slides, the single individual, we use an example of an MTA bus driver. So the starting salary for an MTA bus driver is $53,000. That individual would be under the 50% AMI band. The max rent that they would pay for that studio apartment would be approximately $1,167. So on and so forth. So we give a single mom or single dad with a child, first-year police officer in New York makes $42,000. They would qualify for a 40% AMI unit. That's about $1,000 for a 1-bedroom apartment. The next example is a paramedic in FDNY with 1 child. They would be at the 70% AMI. And then the last example is 2 New York City teachers, starting teachers at a salary of $61,000 each with 2 children in New York. That would be $122,000. They would be just under the 100% of AMI level, and their rent for a 2-bedroom apartment would be approximately $2,700. So next steps. So this slide is a little bit outdated in terms of the ULIRP certification. I apologize. September was what we were targeting. As we mentioned earlier, we believe that DCP plans on certifying this in about 2 weeks on October 24th. Many of you on the Land Use Committee probably already know this process, but it goes to Community Board for 60 days, then to the Bronx BP for 30 days. City Planning Commission has a 60-day window, and then eventually it lands in City Council for their review and approval. And that's really all we have. And again, I wanted to say thank you for your time and allowing us to present today.
Thank you, Mr. Valdez. Wait, Valdez, I'm sorry. Is there anybody else from the applicant that is going to speak, or is that the rest of it from the applicant?
That is all for our prepared remarks,
Okay.
but as I mentioned, we have Rudy Fuertes here from Fine Fair. So if there are any questions
That's-
for Rudy, I think Rudy is more than happy to kind of answer those
Okay.
if anyone has
Well-
any concerns about that. And then anyone from my team is available for questions as well.
Well, right now, Mr. Fuertes, do you have let me unmute you. I gotta go find everybody. Ta-da. Hold on, Mr. Fuertes. All right. Oh, you are unmuted, Mr. Fuertes.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you wish to add to the presentation?
No, I agree with John. We agreed with the owners of the properties that they're going to develop. I'm going to leave the store and come back. We have a long-term lease. I've been there for 30 years in the location, and they understand this as well. I understand it, the importance of keeping the store there. So the developer, we have an agreement in place that he allowed me to relocate temporarily into the time that they're going to build. I own the Walgreens down the block in 2750 Boston Road. As well, I'm in contract with 2003 Boston Road, where we're gonna put the store there temporarily for the couple of years that they're gonna develop the property. And then once the location is back, we're gonna have over 15,000 square feet. Right now, I have like around 11,000 square feet. So I'm gonna have a much larger store, and they're providing the parking. So we have two different type of agreement. One with the landlord where I enter it into a long-term lease over 30 years. And the new store once the store is back, and also with the developer working. We have an agreement with the developer that he's going to give us the reasonable time to relocate for the time being.
All right, thank you. Wait. All right, wait. You are the current owner of both sites, or not both, or
Yes, you're talking about
the Walgreens site and the current Fine Fair site?
correct. I'm the president there for 30 years. I've been there
Okay.
for 30 years. We know the location as 2556. I know that we have it in the record here, 2060, but the address been using for 30 years, 2556. So we know
Okay.
2060, 2556.
Okay. All right. All right. What we're gonna. Is there nobody? Oral or John? Do you have any questions for any of the for any of the participants, any of the applicants or anybody else that spoke?
Yeah, yeah, I have quite a few questions. I didn't know where to start. So many questions I have for you. Right now, you're saying that you have 117 spots for parking, right? With 333 units. And then you also may have parking for the supermarket. So I'm just trying to figure out how that is going to be realized with park, because I know the Fine Fair, right? They get quite a few customers coming in shopping there, and sometimes the parking lot is pretty filled. I shop there, and then you're gonna have parking for the so you're gonna have a lot of in and out parking for the residents and also for the supermarket. I don't think that's enough. I'm trying to figure out that's a lot of movement to me. And have you thought about that? And how are you going to try to make that work? That's the first question.
Sure. Sure. Do you want me to respond to this one, or you want to, before you go to your next question? Well, I can give you. So the proposed 117 spaces that we're proposing is actually 50 spaces in excess of what the zoning would require for this. So we acknowledge that parking is always in neighborhoods a challenge for these sites, for any site. So we're already going over and beyond what that what the zoning would require. Second, the parking program that with the 117 spaces is as designed for self-parking, which, you know, is what as described, which is, you know, you show up, park your own car, you know, come in, come out, both for the residential and the retail. We're committed to exploring a valet or managed parking, I should say, not valet, but a managed parking lot, if there is that demand that the community expects there to be. In a scenario where there is that demand under managed parking, I imagine we've done some preliminary numbers on this, but not very far, that number could probably increase by 25 to 30% at a minimum for what the spaces that we could generate under a managed parking scenario. I don't.
You have parking for the supermarket somewhere on the site, right? And that's free parking or paid parking?
It's free parking.
Okay.
As it is currently exists now, which is also free parking.
Free parking for the supermarket, right?
Yes.
And then you have is not a parking that's probably reserved for the residents.
The residential parking doesn't necessarily have to be reserved for the exact residents. I imagine, just like, you know, anyone living in a building that, you know, they would ideally want to park there, but it's a general parking lot. I think it's public parking. I don't think I'm allowed to restrict it to only building residents. So it would be a, you know, just like any other parking garage in the base of an apartment building. You could be transient in and out on a given day, or be a monthly parker, you know, typical parking garage scenario.
Yeah,
but
and
now
you may
the
have
parking
people
numbers
leaving
that
their
we're
car there.
depicting for that are self-parking, you know, Stripe, you pull in, park your own car. And I'm saying, if there is demand, which we have no problem converting this, if there is that demand, I don't want to commit to it today because I don't know what the demand will be. We have no problem with it being a managed lot. It's more parking means more revenue, which is better for the building and better for operations. So we will totally commit to exploring a managed parking, which can do more than the base level of a self-parking scenario.
Right, and I agree, because you have people may want to park their car, then leave it there for, you know, especially if they want to go on a trip, just leave it there for indefinitely. So I think that probably has to be worked out. I'm an architect, so my concern is the two things: sustainable design, right? What are you proposing for sustainable design? Because sustainable design means a carbon footprint, right? You're going to think about that and the carbon.
Yeah.
And then you're also going to think about solar, reusable material, LED lighting. So those are the kind of things I'm probably too technical for maybe you to get into right now. And water recapture, rainwater recapture. So
this is a great question, and one I'm happy to answer, because I think this is what I do every day. And you're an architect, and this is what I do as a developer every day on the sustainability front. So we haven't designed this building yet, but at a bare minimum, it will be Enterprise Green Communities, which is basically is 20% better than code. If I might be off, don't quote me exactly on that, but it achieves better energy ratings than I think beats code by 20%, and that's done through low flow faucets, you know, LED bulbs. In addition, we will do solar roof and or green roof. There's multiple roofs and setbacks here, so it'll probably be a combination of both. And I haven't designed this building, but I could tell you as an example what I'm doing on a project very similar in Brooklyn right now, where we're doing our first passive house design building that is incorporating, in addition to achieving striving for passive house, we're doing the same solar panels, rainwater recapture on site. This is part of our fabric of our company to do sustainable design in all of our projects.
Yeah, because I'm a passive
And
home.
we're committed to that on a project like this here.
Yeah, no, I'm a passive home expert. I design passive homes too, so I know what you're doing, and it's good that you're doing that type of design where you're capturing or making sure that you're not losing energy, heating and cooling inside of a building, depending on how you design the envelope. It's all about the envelope design, right? In a passive home. So that's good. And but I guess you'll talk more about the carbon footprint that you're going to be creating with this building when you're building it.
Yeah. So before I get in, so the only other thing I'll say on that is the passive house building we're doing is also 100% electric. So no natural gas.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes into your next point about the carbon footprint. So the Enterprise Green Communities program does have it's a point system similar to LEED, which you might be familiar with, that gives you points for, minimizing waste stream, sourcing products locally within a certain geographic zone, things like that to help reduce the carbon impact of a project like this from a construction perspective. But as an architect, you probably can imagine, like, building a building with no carbon impact is, not an easy thing to do, right? You got to source materials to build the building.
Yeah, well, we're using a lot of concrete, so that's going to be an impact with the carbon footprint, just using the concrete alone. When you're pouring it or whatever you're doing, that has a huge impact on the carbon footprint, concrete. And also now ADA accessibility. I didn't hear anything about that as far as accommodating people with how many units are going to be ADA accessible for people who are elderly or can't manage the movement well. And are you going to allocate units for accessibility?
Yeah, so HPD, city planning, and DOB all require minimum set-asides for ADA. In addition, on all of our projects, we hire an ADA consultant to review all of our drawings to help make sure that we're complying with ADA. And so on top of our architect, we hire a third-party consultant to make sure we're being very sensitive to ADA needs within our design. In other projects, we've gone over and beyond and added grab bars and additional safety features for populations like seniors aging in place. So depending on the population, we could work on stuff like that here.
Okay, and I have more, but I guess I want other people maybe to answer. Now you're gonna what you're proposing is what I think is called spot zoning, right? Because you're only going to zone the 7-2 C8 whatever -1 in just one block, right? In just that block alone.
So I am not a zoning attorney, but spot zoning has a very specific definition. Jackie, my zoning attorney, is jumping at the bit to answer this, but I don't think this is what city planning would consider a spot rezoning.
Well, it looks like that to me, but if Jackie can explain it to me, because I know the nuances behind it, and I know the legal definition of trying to convince people that it's not spot zoning, and so it's kind of difficult for me. But you can go ahead and try to convince me that it's not spot zoning, but I don't see any other way you would call it.
Sure. So this project area, it spans sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry. I
Okay.
couldn't hear you before, but now.
Expands the block fronts from Matthew to Barnes on Boston Road, which is a wide street, and you know, the access to transit of this block, and also it there is a rationale for an increase in density in the proposed project rezoning area. Sorry, I can't see some of this writing in the chat. But we have a reasonable basis here for the rezoning for this site because it is an irregularly shaped block. The Boston Road cuts through in this area, and creating additional density along a wide street, Boston Road, allows for the reasoning for the rezoning that's proposed here.
So you're using the width of the street as a reasoning to rezone just that block, right? Is that what it is?
Jackie,
Yeah,
Could you-
exactly. I mean, you have to have a reasonable basis for proposing a rezoning area, and that's the reasoning for this application is that, you know, we're close to transit, an area that can support additional affordable housing, and is located along a wide street.
Right.
and
Because
Jackie, sorry. Go on, Ron. Jackie,
No.
I have a question. You still haven't answered why this is not considered spot zoning.
That's why, because we have, you know, we have a reasonable basis for the rezoning area that's proposed. Spot zoning is when you have no rational basis for rezoning a specific area, like one small, very unique site that has no rational basis for a land use application.
Yeah, but the current zoning is doable. The current zoning right now, what it is, it's someone just texted me. So
It's
it's
C8-1 and R6, so it's split through the site.
right. Right.
But that's, yes.
Just a
No,
quick question, Ken, or
Yeah.
just a quick thing. So, Jacqueline, on this particular site, you're jumping from an R6 to an R7, which gives you more square footage. Is this a use group 3?
It is a use group 2 residential, and we're also proposing commercial use group 6 for the supermarket, and we have ground floor retail, and we also have some use group 4 community facility space.
Would you get the same square footage if you were to use the R6 and use a use group 3? And why stay away from the use group 3 if it's a community? Well, is affordable housing considered that? I'm not sure.
Use group 3 is a school or
Right.
Community facility with sleeping
community
accommodations.
facility use. It's not a residential affordable housing that we're proposing here.
Okay, so I don't know if it falls into the affordable housing market, but use group 3 community facility with sleeping accommodations does do supportive housing and all this type of residential. So just wanted to see.
Yeah, that's different. That's a different type of housing. This is a mix and match program, as John was explaining earlier. So it is not a supportive housing development.
And also the viability of doing this project. If the rezoning didn't happen, you had the C8 and the R6. How much smaller would this get?
Well, you can't propose residential use.
Right.
And that's the major issue with redeveloping this site.
Got it.
Without
Okay.
the rezoning.
Got it. Okay. Because I thought the R6 would give you residential. I just didn't understand.
No, because where they have it, John, is not residential right now. If you look in the zoning map, they had it up here for a second here. The difference between what it is now and the proposed, and I know the gray lines and the ideas of trying to yeah.
Yeah,
Right now, it's C8, it's C8-1 and an R6, or R6 overlap in there. So what you're doing is you're spot zoning, but it's okay. you're taking it and using the definition of the wide street, and then using the more reasonable R7-2 to get the facility what it needs to be with the overlapping, with the commercial overlap below the R7-2 residential, and you have on here the overlap here, right, with the commercial on the first floor, and it gets you the C2-4 overlap right there. So that's a rezoning of just that area there.
Okay, got it.
So,
Thanks.
I know, because I work with zoning too, but it's okay. It seems like and probably a nice building. I hope it works out well, because I know housing is a big need for people in communities. I'm just worried about my concerns are with the parking. That's one of the things with the store and the residential parking there. That's one of my big concerns. I guess you'll have to try to work that out. I think a managed parking may work out better. But I think, having parking with residential and shopping, it may work out. It does. You can work it out in the different areas. And the sustainability issues I have an issue with, but I have to get more information on that, and how you will make sure that 50% of the housing is preferred for CB11 residents there, trying to get making sure they meet that AMI criteria. I think that's pretty interesting, trying to meet that. And then trying to develop spaces. I saw on the first floor there's some spaces for community board needs. So that's going to be interesting to see also. It doesn't look like it's a complete set. It's very schematic right now, I know. Even from just looking at the plan above, where you have your solar panels and things like that. Are you getting the right solar? Right now I know it's just a put together thing, but I think it can be designed a little bit better from what I'm looking at it right now. From looking at the roof down, I don't think you're getting enough energy from what you're showing there with you have 5 or 6 solar panels on there, maybe 8. I don't know if you're getting enough, but I know right now this is very preliminary. I have that's it. And if Ken, if you have questions to anyone else on the board.
I don't have any more. John, do you have any more? John, do you have any more questions?
Just one thing. I would definitely say managed parking. We have definitely issues with parking in our area, and definitely I would say managed parking in there where, I don't know if the supermarket, how they validate parking. That's great. If you buy something, you validate parking, and the residents, it's an area that has when we go to Fine Fair, which I do shop at Fine Fair, it's great that they have the parking. It's actually one of the reasons why I go there is because you can pick up food at a reasonable price and it has parking, which a lot of stores in this neighborhood don't. So definitely parking is key.
Yeah, and I can see if it's not managed well, parking can be kind of an issue in this nice looking building that you're showing.
Actually, I think it's from Mr. Fuertes. I got a question. Whenever I've gone to the Walgreens, they almost never the parking lot there is almost never filled. Is it possible that you can in a sense rent or allow some of the people that are in that building to park in the Walgreens? Would that be since you're doing to some extent that the properties are being developed and used together in a sense with a common owner? Would you consider anything like that possibly? Would you possibly consider something like that?
Yes, I would, but you got to remember the Walgreens is on the lease, lease, and they actually leasing the whole property, and that is something that has to be worked out with Walgreens.
Just something to think about. That's all.
Okay.
Thank you. Oral, do you have you don't have any more questions?
No, I
John?
just know, so all the units are rentable, right? There's no future condominiums going to be there or co-ops. It's just all rental units.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, I think that's about all we have from the committee. Gonna have the gallery session now. We had, as far as I know, there were 2 people that signed up to speak. That is Stephanie, I forgot it, I don't know your last name, and Stephanie was first. Stephanie, you still here?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I can't see all of the people. Stephanie Sue, okay, now I see you. Okay, hold on. Let me see if let me see. Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, Stephanie, you have 2 minutes to speak. We're gonna,
All right, and I'll try to make this really quickly. I represent several members of the community, and while the development sounds really great, just on a surface level, one of the issues that they're having is, or what they're worrying about, is that the development is going to take up. It's going to start. Well, it should say that there's going to be a delay with the supermarket closing and the new supermarket opening. So our concern is that my clients have access to that supermarket. There's great parking, and even some of the community board members have said that they visit there. There are elderly people that go there. It's in walking distance. There's not many places where they can go, the community can go to go shop for like fresh fruits, fresh vegetables, fresh meats. Beside like the bodega, there was a supermarket across the street, but I know it's now closed. Some of my clients, they have family members or friends that work at that supermarket, and they're worried about their job not being there between the supermarket closing as it where it is now, as opposed to when it reopens at the new location. um, so that's a really big issue for my clients. We have elderly people that go there, as I said, handicapped people. That supermarket is very important to them. I know people may not realize
Sure.
how important that is. And if you think about even with COVID, going on a train or a bus, and even now with crime, they want to still be able to get to that supermarket.
30 seconds. Okay, are you
Stephanie,
done?
can I respond to your
Sure.
point, or so maybe I don't know if you missed it earlier, Stephanie. So what we're proposing here is, and what we've worked out with Rudy, is there will be no downtime in the supermarket. Rudy has secured a site. He has 2 different options. One he owns already, one he's under contract to purchase within 2 blocks of the existing site. We're going to allow Rudy to move out of the existing site, relocate, open a new store, then we're going to demolish and build a new building. So we are proposing exactly what you're asking for, which is no downtime,
No,
no loss of jobs, no loss of supermarket at all.
so there won't be any delay between the old supermarket closing and the new supermarket opening.
Correct. And you could hear it from Rudy, I don't want to call you a horse, Rudy, but from the horse's mouth himself, you can hear it from the operator.
It's okay. You can call me horse mouth. Yes.
Okay.
we just have we had 2 agreements in place. One, the original agreement was that I was vacate for the time being, that they develop the property and then come back and open the store. And we just had another agreement with a sign with the developer where he allowed me to relocate before we close here without losing any time. So that's great news to us. And we're working hand to hand to make sure, especially me, to me, it's not about the business. I love the community. I love the supermarket. I've been there 30 years and that store has been there 50 years. So I love the store. I love the customer. I love the people. So to me, as well, your concern is very valuable, and I guarantee you that that's not going to happen.
I like this store too,
Okay,
Rudy.
okay, yeah, thanks, Rudy. That's okay. We next person to speak is Grace. I don't know your last name. Are you still here?
I'm still
Hold
here.
on, wait. Okay.
Kenny, I'm timing.
You're
Kenny.
timing
It's
it?
okay.
Okay.
It's okay. Go
Okay,
ahead.
so, all right. I do shop. I have been shopping at that supermarket when it was D'Agostino back over 50 years ago. I've seen the changes, okay? So that is my shopping area. The size of that building is a monster. It does not belong over here. You know, you talk about affordable housing. We all know, or those of us who pay attention, that the AMI is a scam. The AMI includes Westchester County, Scarsdale, and other places, and it raises up the AMI. The people that live here, we don't make nowhere near a 30, whatever it is, nowhere near even at the 30%. We don't make that kind of money. So people from here are not going to be able to move into that building. That building is an eyesore. And you don't know Boston Road. Boston Road is a speedway. Somebody's gonna wind up getting killed because of all you're gonna have parking and this and that in there. Somebody's gonna wind up getting killed, and guess who we're gonna go after? You, Rodolfo, you and your developer for putting that monstrosity there. We don't need this here. We are full density in this area. Go to Morris Park, go to Pelham Parkway, go to Throgs Neck. We are dense enough in this area. It's not affordable housing. Are you going to accept vouchers, Section 8, and screen for seniors? I'm a senior and I'm disabled. So it's hard for me to walk. So if you're going to move the
30
supermarket,
seconds.
you're going to move the supermarket further away, makes it harder for me and other senior citizens and elderly and disabled people to get to buy food. And then once you get in there, how much is the food prices going to be raised? We can't hardly afford anything now to buy meat and chicken and things like that. This is outrageous. And I think the community board needs to say no to this and stop it and try to stop this. This is not good
Okay,
for our
Grace.
neighborhood.
Thank you, Grace. That's it.
All right, those are the list of the people who've spoken. Is there anybody else from the community that would like to speak for another 2 minutes? Anybody else?
Yes,
Yes,
Roxanne Delgado.
Diana Finch too.
Hold on, wait. We'll have Roxanne Delgado, 2 minutes.
Okay,
Roxanne?
I'd like to say first that yes, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Go ahead.
Yes.
Hello.
We
Hi
can
there.
hear Roxanne. You can go.
Delgado. Thank you. I'd like to say first that Community Board 11 did not send out the email about this meeting barely an hour ago. They didn't put any flyers in the community impacted. There was no notification of Bronx Times or as required in the city record. So the lack of notification is a concern for me. Second, these supermarket workers have their job protected during this while the work is being done. Are they in unions? Will unions be involved in building this project? 32 BJ, Carpenters, Local 79. The affordability, as the prior speaker mentioned, she's right. It shouldn't be no more than 40% AMI. It should be within the median income of the community. Otherwise, it's not affordable for the community residents. I think this community board needs to make sure, because unfortunately, I don't see many residents that actually live there that have to deal with this 24/7. You can't always rely on people like myself, community members, to do the outreach for you. You have a staff that's required by city charter to do the outreach. We need to have public input from people that live there. And I do shop there, by the way, but that's besides the point. And at this moment, as the project as it is now, should be turned out as a no. Until you get real affordability, real job protection, real unions involved. Until then, we need to negotiate. We can't just say yes to any developer that comes into our community to make money. We have to get some benefits as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roxanne. Diana Finch, you had your hand up to speak?
Yes, thank you. Diana Finch.
Diana, 2 minutes. You'll get a 30-second warning. Just like
Okay.
everybody else.
Sure. I'm with the Bronx Park East Community Association, which covers basically from Bronx Park East to Boston Road, Pelham Parkway to Allerton. So this is just outside our area. And just in our area alone, in the last year or so, there are a dozen new buildings going up 6 stories high, replacing either empty lots or 1 and 2 family houses. So I'm all in favor of affordable housing. I like the sustainable building. That all sounds great, but already parking throughout the area is a real problem. There isn't enough street parking to the point where teachers have quit their jobs at the local schools because it's too hard for them to find parking when they commute. So we'd really want to see a diagram showing every single one of the 117 cars and how you park them. And also, I think there's going to be a population explosion in this area with all these new buildings going up, and the schools are already at top capacity. So nobody is really thinking of, like, I'm not sure whose job it is to think of things like parking capacity throughout the area, schools, the capacity of the schools throughout the area. And then finally, as Grace said, Boston Road, it's very wide. It's known as a speedway.
30 seconds.
Been a lot of accidents. Pedestrian safety is, if you're going to be adding all these pedestrians in, 300 more pedestrians, it's a wide road, it's angled, very complicated intersections. You have to work with DOT very closely to make that a safe place for people to live and walk.
Okay, great, Diane, perfect.
We got Jason Mendez who has, just Mr. Mendez.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Now
Yes,
you're
go
unmuted,
ahead.
yes, sir.
You can go.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to claim that I'm an architect or claim that I know much about architectural zoning, but I am a little concerned, as a lot of people have been, with the height of the project, especially that it's given that it's so close to many people's homes and two-story homes, and it really blocks a lot of the sunlight for those homeowners and a lot of people who live in the area. I think that would be a major concern. Another concern of mine is that I know this area is a very mixed density area. It's comprised of many buildings, 6 stories and 7, with also 2 family homes that are 2 stories and maybe sometimes 3. But I do think that an R6, I'm not going to say I'm an architect, but that an R6A overlay with a C2-4, I'm not too sure if that'll work, is more appropriate with the density of the area. I know that I think 10 stories is a little drastic, a little more drastic than a current upzoning that I won't mention in this presentation, but I do think that it speaks volumes with the people who live there and the height of the current existing buildings. It doesn't really match. I'm a whole proponent for contextualization of zoning and understanding the value of having zoning that is contextual with the existing zoning, and that's what really city planning is about, but I digress. I just wanted to speak about that. And lastly, I wanted to speak about the architectural style of the building. It is that of a dorm room setting. I know that this is a very brutalist kind of architecture that New York City is really trying to build towards, and I'm not too much of a fan. I know that this neighborhood has been a lot of colonial homes and a lot of other homes that are reminiscent of the 40s and 1950s and the turn of the century. So I don't know if the developers can build a building that is very contextual based on the area. I'm not opposed to buildings, especially in this area that is very mixed, but I do think that they need to take into consideration the current buildings, the current housing, and the current architectural platform.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mendez. Mr. Weinstein, you want to speak for a little bit?
Yes, if I could just quickly,
Thank you,
maybe
PD.
clarify a little bit what the process is here, what the status in the process.
Mr.
Everybody
Weinstein, you're from HPD, correct?
Yes, I'm the Director of Bronx
you.
Planning for HPD.
Okay.
And I came tonight basically just to listen, but I'm happy to try to just clarify and make sure everybody understands what's happening. This is a development that anybody can propose a development, and then what they're proposing here is, as they've said, is to do a change in the zoning, because I think there was a little incorrectness before that. The frontage along Boston Road right now does not allow any residential, and so that's part of what they're trying to do here, is to change the zoning to allow the residential. And they've gone through working with city planning. Michael Cavallaro is on the call for quite some time. This ULURP application, because this requires ULURP, will be certified in a couple of weeks, and then it officially comes back to you, the community board. One of the slides sort of explained that, and so then you have time to have a public hearing you like, and then the community board eventually will vote its recommendation, and then it goes to the borough president and the city planning commission, city council. As far as HPD is concerned and our involvement here, they have indicated an interest, a desire in utilizing an HPD program to provide the majority financing for the project. There's always some private financing as well, but the city, we have programs specifically to help create affordable housing, because otherwise it's just too expensive to build housing. And so they have contacted our finance division, and then they will, I presume, start now to more aggressively do that. What happens then is when someone comes in and wants to use our financing, they have to go through a whole process. It's reviewed by us in the planning division. It's reviewed by our architects. It's reviewed by our environmental people to study impact. It's reviewed by, of course, the finance division, who acts like a bank to make sure that the underwriting is correct and that it works. And so there's a lot yet to happen here. This is at this point really, from our point of view, just a proposal that again, the ULERP will start an official process, but it will take some time to have all of these internal reviews done within HPD. And some of the issues that have come up will be discussed, but you shouldn't feel that this is necessarily, figuratively and literally in concrete. There'll be discussions about it. At the same time, and I think it's important to say this, is that as we all know, there is an affordable housing crisis in the city. And there's a lot of discussion going on, particularly right now, about trying to create more affordable housing in as many different areas as possible. And so, without saying that we're going to approve this for financing, we're certainly interested because we're always looking to do more affordable housing. As far as people in the area being able to apply, there's not a doubt in my mind that there will be many, many, many people. And NIDC, I believe, will back this up because they work with tenants in the community all the time. There will be many people from this community applying to try to get into this building when the time comes. And so I don't think there's any question about that. I would say also that in terms of our community preference requirement for the 50%, that once upon a time that was somewhat difficult for all the buildings in the Bronx to achieve. That just is never a problem. When the time comes, usually when the building is about 2/3 is built, that's when the marketing begins for people to apply. And since the system was computerized, I won't go into details about that now, but since the system was computerized, every single building achieves that 50% community preference. And so there's just not a doubt in my mind that'll happen here as well. And so again, there's a lot of process yet to happen here. And some of the issues that are raised, of course, will be discussed.
Thank you. That was excellent.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mr. Thanks, Mr. Weinstein. Mr. Weinstein. Okay, at this point, everybody we have had community. We are not taking a vote on this tonight because as has been pointed out, the application has not been certified yet. We had believed that the application would be certified when we set this meeting up, and then we would have had a vote. Tonight, we are just going to report back to the community board about it. And we'll have to see what happens after the application is certified. Nobody else that hasn't spoken. All right.
Can I have a quick question? I mean, yeah, I think some of the concerns about the height, as an architect, I do see some things about it. A shadow study may help to see what impact this building may have on the lower buildings, the smaller buildings that are around it. That would be, I've done that too, where you do a modeling of it to see what type of shadows it casts. Does it take away some sunlight from some of the smaller buildings in the neighborhood? I think that's a good test of this. And also, just to mention, I know I am an architect. The other person was saying he's not. This is not brutalism. That's not, I just want to say that because I've studied it. This is not what it is, but it's okay. I mean, it's a different type of design, but it's not that. But as traffic study, a shadow study may help it, but I do see a height as something that's interesting to look at as far as what type of shadow this thing does cast on the surrounding buildings. That would be interesting to see and to understand. But that's it, Ken. I'm done.
Okay. Yes, I see that there are people, yep. I understand that people want to speak again. It's getting late. We are going to have another meeting because this is not the certificate. This has not been certified yet. We're not taking a vote on this tonight, as I said. We're going to bring this back to the community board. The only one who hasn't spoken yet, that I'd like to speak, give everybody a chance to at least speak. Mr. Cavalier, you haven't spoken yet. You wanted to say something? Where are you?
On your mic.
I was muted. Yeah, sorry
There you
about
go.
that.
There you go. No
Thanks,
worries.
Ken. Yeah, thanks, Carl. Yeah, just on the last point with the shadows study, when the documents become public in the environmental review documents, there will be a shadows analysis that that will be available to everyone if you want to take a look at that, and that should give you a pretty comprehensive sense of the shadows across the year.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Michael. Okay, I believe that's the end of the gallery section. The next item on the agenda is old business, and we actually do have some old business here. That's to go over to get what should have been done before. To accept the minutes from the December 21st, 2021 and January 2022 meetings. I realize we've been putting them off, but I believe we should do those. And there are three people, John and Oral. I'm going to make a motion to accept the minutes. Can we accept them?
Second. Accept.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go.
All right. I'm now going to give the applicant, you guys want to leave, and I don't think we have any more questions for you. We'll probably have the next time.
We do.
When this,
Can we do? We do.
Yeah.
We didn't want us to leave without saying goodbye and without
Right.
saying thank you. We appreciate everyone's time and comments and feedback and look forward to hearing and seeing you guys again.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any new business? Okay, on that point, everybody's had a chance to speak, even if you didn't sign up in advance. At that point, I'm going to call the meeting closed. We're ending the meeting at 8:49 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for attending, and we'll definitely be bringing this up at the next full board of the community board meeting. Thank you, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for attending.
Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Those are excellent comments.
Good night. Goodbye. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Ken. We'll talk later, Ken.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks. All right. Bye.
All right. We're ending the meeting now and ending the meeting for all.